A transfer of biblical proportions. I don't know. Isaiah's coming back to Miami. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, with our Miami football show each and every week. And we do it only the best way possible with Cam Underwood from State of the U, who makes it all possible. Cam, how you doing tonight?
I'm good. Just enjoying a day off from the secret day job. Took the boat for a spin for a couple hours today. It was pretty good. I'm rehydrating so I can show you that I have water today after doing that. But yeah, man, everything's good. How about you?
Nothing fancy for you to drink tonight during the show.
Just man, hey man, you get out there with no cover or anything. You gotta rehydrate. That sun on the water. I think it was out from like 10:35 to almost 1 o'clock and everything. So yeah, it's at the height of heat time. So yeah, that's a little humble brag, but got to do that today and everything and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, I'm doing well. Ready to talk some Canes.
Just a few minutes before we jumped on the line, I was on the phone with one of my best friends who lives in Florida and said May has been extremely nice, not necessarily unbearable like it becomes quickly in this late in the spring. Isaiah Walker, offensive tackle, 15th rated, coming out of high school, just committed to Florida in the fall of 2019, signed 2020, bam, transfers to Miami, something that's been speculated upon, but is now official.
That's a big move. If you've been watching any of these shows, that was a guy that people asked me about a lot during this last recruiting class. It's a guy that we spoke about, wrote about, followed, tried to figure out the leaves or read the tea leaves, as it were. He's 6'5", 305, somewhere in that range ish, from Miami Norland Senior High School, which is literal walking distance from Hard Rock Stadium. If you're from that area, sometimes people will go and park their cars over at Norland and walk under the turnpike right there. I mean, it's, like I said, literal walking distance from the stadium. Huge recruit, 4-star, is one of the best offensive tackles in the state of Florida in this recruiting class at all. And, he's from this area. So losing him to Florida was a big blow. There's been much speculation behind the scenes as to why he decided to choose Florida. He signed there, enrolled in January, and bounced quickly. It was like, yeah, that's not the place for me. It ended up just like today, actually, coming or announcing his transfer destination is going to be Coral Gables. So whether he's eligible this year or not, that's still a huge get. You're going to force that first year redshirt and still have 4 years to play if he is not eligible this year. And that's perfectly fine. I think that most offensive linemen, like we were talking about a couple of weeks ago, if you have a paradigm set for how you build the offensive line, most will be well served with a redshirt year. And I think that will be, well used with Isaiah Walker. If by some chance he is eligible, then he's going to compete for a tackle slot right off the bat, which is great. And that's the thing that this roster needed, is offensive linemen. And, we talked about that in this recruiting class. We talked about that for years. And he was one of the prime targets to add to this class throughout the whole entire process. So then you add him to Chris Washington, who's a developmental tackle from Nashville at 6'7", 275, and along with Jalen Rivers from Oakleaf up in Orange Park outside of Jacksonville. Now you got 3 really good tackle prospects from this class coming in, and you just increase the talent at that position. So it's like we were talking about last week. You got to throw numbers at the problem, but when you have numbers of quality, hopefully they start to hit. And Isaiah Walker is one of those guys, and I'm really, really excited that he's transferring down here.
As New King God points out, another definition of draining the swamp that we become accustomed to on the political scene, but this one, in a sense, literal swamp of the Gators, going from Florida to Miami, Isaiah Walker. So
look, it's almost, I was going to write a piece. I had to maybe rethink this now about the college football trade machine and like what trades you would make to make your team better. Miami traded Lorenzo Lingard, a former 5-star running back who's had a couple injury issues and things throughout his career, but he transfers to Florida. Then you get Avante Williams, and they called National Signing Day Tay Day because they thought he was going there. Wrong. And then Isaiah Walker, I saw somebody said they want to call today Zay Day for his announcement of his transfer. And then those two guys, Isaiah Walker Jr. and Avante Williams, Florida fans were dead set, certain that both of them were going to be wearing orange and blue. Both of those guys are now Hurricanes. So if I had to lose Lorenzo Lingard, and I'm a big fan of Lorenzo Lingard, and I think he can still do big things, but if I got to trade him to get both of them, all day long, any day of the week and twice on Sunday, I'm making that trade. So, I mean, I think we're in a good space.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Please lock it in for college football coverage each day, but specifically, of course, our conversation with Cam Underwood each and every week. Schedules are different each week. That's why it's important to subscribe to the channel. Lock it in that you get the notifications that way. Also, keep in mind that Cam brings us a load of information, insight, knowledge that's really irreplaceable. There are few sources. Yes, he's not the only one, but there are very few sources to get this kind of Miami football coverage. So the super chat is available. Just consider that as well. Tualia Tagovailoa. That was a conversation a few weeks ago following the NFL draft and Tua's selection to the Miami Dolphins. And we talked about how the family tends to migrate together. And now we've got a situation in which Tualia has officially jumped into the transfer portal.
Yeah, and that's actually, it's funny because I wrote about that late last night to post this morning. I went and dotted all my I's and crossed all my T's on a piece, whether Miami could or should pursue Tualia, the younger Tagovailoa brother, Tagovailoa, excuse me with that pronunciation. Anyway, in so many ways, and you can go read the piece, it's up on stateoftheu.com right now. In terms of talent and, demonstrated performance from high school, Tualia Tagovailoa can be a Power 5 quarterback, as in on the roster. I don't know that he can start here. I actually don't think that he has the ability to start here. But, I mean, he can be on the roster. And look, this is a school where we've had some guys on scholarship at quarterback who shouldn't have been. So I think that, Tualia has that kind of talent where, giving him a scholarship would be maybe not preferable, but it would be understandable. But he's a little short. His arm isn't as strong as his brother's. And, hey, just like you see with getting Isaiah Walker Jr., this roster really needed offensive linemen more than quarterbacks. And I would say even a cornerback on defense, a CB, would be on the list before a quarterback. And you got 5 quarterbacks right now. And 4 of them you have for at least 2 more years. You got De'Aaron King for this year. You got N'Kosi Perry and Tate Martell for 2 years. You got Peyton Matoka coming off a redshirt for 4 more years, and Tyler Van Dyke for up to 5 years, including his redshirt year this year. We got 5 scholarship dudes. I'm good. Honestly, I would rather allocate that resource elsewhere, which we did by bringing in Walker. So like I said, at the end of my piece, I said, if the best thing that you can say about a player that you're evaluating for transfer is either 1, the school that he used to play for, or 2, the family name that's on the back of his jersey, look elsewhere. And look, I think that he's going to do well somewhere, but somewhere that's a better fit for him. And Miami is just not it, in my estimation. So I would prefer that we didn't. To my knowledge, and based upon years of covering and reading about and researching recruiting, and also listening to, others who know even more than I do, including, coaches who have come out and said things like Manny Diaz, said that there was 1 slot for this 2020 recruiting class, which, like I talked about a couple of weeks ago, was kind of reserved for Willie Moise, who had been at Chaminade, transferred up to Orlando. I said, he's not coming. He's not going to qualify here. So now you take that, and it's an incoming player, including transfers. For, that's why you get 25 new additions to the roster. Boom. So if Isaiah Walker Jr. has announced that he's coming, coaches are all tweeting about it and everything, that 1 takes that 1. So we don't have a slot for Tualia. Now, his brother's about to be wealthy, from his first round, number 5 overall pick. Maybe he wants to pay the bill for the younger brother to come to Miami as a walk-on for a year before he's eligible for a scholarship or something. Like a Baker Mayfield paying his way on at Oklahoma before, getting a scholarship there. Hey, that's something that, hey, if you want to come on and it's not costing me a scholarship right now, I'll take that. But honestly and truly, the nuclear Tagovailoa family has moved all over the place. Obviously, you go from Hawaii to Alabama. What? I mean, come on, bro. I've been to Alabama. I've not been to Hawaii, but like my family has, and I've seen pictures. Like, come on.
Yeah.
And obviously, like they have the means to do that. So they're not like I had a former student who did Teach for America out in Hawaii, and it was like, you know, in their inner city situation there. The Tagovailoas are not from the bad side of high-low. You know what I mean? But if they want to come down to South Florida, like, look, FAU got Willie Taggart, might not be great at a big time school, obviously, like you can see from his time at FSU. But FAU, they're going to do numbers probably like he did at Western Kentucky or South Florida. Maybe that's a fit. FIU down the road, yes, that one. Shut up. They've had two moderately talented quarterbacks that they've turned into late round draft picks. I mean, you could do worse. So I would say one of those places in South Florida would be better than Miami. But again, that's just my view on it.
Cam Underwood joining us from State of the U for the next half hour or so. We'll take your comments and questions, debate topics as well. Miami's the focus. You can extend it, obviously, to all of college football as long as it's got a national landscape or ACC landscape to it. Is this question on the feed right now as obvious as I think it is? Luke Walker, tremendous supporter of the channel, but still, do you think there will be a lot of decommitments because of the abnormal amount of commitments? Well, that would seem to go hand in hand.
Yeah.
I would ask, have there been an abnormal amount of commitments at this point of the year?
I don't think there's been an abnormal amount of commitments. There's been an abnormal amount of decommitments. Bud Elliott, who used to be a colleague of mine at SB Nation, is now over at 247 Sports. He wrote a piece about this. There have already been more decommitments in the 2021 recruiting class than any two of the last 3 years combined. Like, yeah. So whether that's 18, 19, and 20s classes, any two of those 3 years, you combine them, has not seen as many decommitments as have already happened in this class. So it's a little bit different. You have guys, I think, jumping in the boat at a place to secure their spot just because things are so uncertain. You're losing this evaluation time for the coaches, but you're losing all this exposure time for these players. And I know that people have their thoughts and feelings about 7-on-7 football, but you get out there and you see a kid and you see, oh, he grew a little bit, or he looks a little bit more fluid, or, now I'm going to pay attention to him when he gets pads, or I want to make sure that I get this 7-on-7 elite team down to my campus. When you have the Louisiana Bootleggers in town for an Adidas tournament in Miami, you want to make sure that they hit Coral Gables for a visit. You know what I mean? If there's a team camp, hopefully the 7-on-7 team will come and do, or like have an individual camp, so those players will be able to do those things. You're losing that exposure. Spring football, both high school and college. The evaluation period is still gone. I think that the dead period's been extended to June 1st already, if not further. So there's a lot of uncertainty on both sides. So you really have to rely on the work that you've already done. And so some of these guys who are late bloomers or might have really started to take a major step forward as juniors into their senior year, maybe a guy who's at a school behind a Power 5 recruit as a freshman and sophomore. So now, cool, Deontay Burton is gone, whoever, you know what I mean? And so I get to step up into that big slot. And you might have, but then you ride the wave of your junior year into senior year. Athletics is like academics. Everybody says your junior year is the biggest year for getting into college. You know what I mean? It's that same thing, but you're losing all that time. So you have guys who are jumping in the boat, and then they might not be 100% in. You know what I mean? It's just like, I'm going to commit to this school so I have a spot as a recruit to go somewhere for free to college in this class. And then obviously, we've seen it with Miami in years past. We've seen it with other schools. Look, I'm going to commit here, and then I'm going to really work for and wait for that offer that I want. And then I'm going to decommit and go there. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of that going on, and a lot of people who would otherwise extend out their recruitments who don't have the ability to do that. If you're not a really premium blue chip guy, 4-star, 5-star, teams will wait on those guys. You know what I mean? If it was a Justin Flo in last year's class who didn't announce until National Signing Day, everybody in America was waiting on him. You're not going to say, oh, well, he hasn't made his choice, we're going to move on. No. He's number one linebacker in America. We'll wait as long as waiting needs to happen. But some of these other guys where it's marginal between them and someone else, you might prefer them, but you're not going to hold up the process. Your process in favor of their process. So there's a lot of moving parts going on, and we'll see when things open up and how it opens up, because yeah, this whole coronavirus thing has changed the timeline for everybody pretty much.
People, please like the video and please subscribe to the channel here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. And again, the super chat is available. New King God, Cam, basically he's asking about cornerbacks that could be targets.
Yeah, I don't think that, I mean, he says, are there any that we're close on? I do not think that we're close on any cornerbacks right now. Obviously, having just gotten, geez, I always forget this kid's name. The Bishop Vero kid, who I think is better on offense. Not Tim Burns. Let me scroll down. Jesus, Marcus something. Where'd it go? Malik Curtis, excuse me, from Bishop Vero. I'm going to learn your name 100%, I promise. But since he just committed, I don't think that we're necessarily close on anybody else. There's been talk. I mean, obviously, Miami's pushing for Jason Marshall from Miami Palmetto. He's a 5-star kid. I mean, he's a top 30 player in America, 6'2", 180. Yeah, I mean, he's like every other 5-star that has been down here, whether it's a Tyson Campbell, Pat Surtain, Josh Jobe. I know that he, transferred away for that last year to do prep school because he aged out of eligibility in high school. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, any of those guys, Isaiah or Jason Marshall, excuse me, is comparable both in size and skill. So he's a guy that we're going after. I don't necessarily think that that's going to happen, unfortunately. Nyland Green from Covington, Georgia. He's a guy that Miami has been trying to make some inroads with. 6'2", 183. He's a 4-star guy, so another blue chip. We'll see what happens, but he's a very talented player that Miami is definitely pursuing as well. And I mean, there's other guys with offers. Markevius Brown, who's at IMG Academy. I forget where he's originally from. Deuce Chestnut from Camden in New Jersey is a guy. And there's, some other guys locally, Ricardo Hallman and Kevin Knowles from University School and MacArthur, respectively. If you get a Yule Keith Brown, you could consider playing him on defense, although I would not do that. So there are options, and there's probably going to be more that pop up on the board. And luckily, that's a position where there are multiple blue chip guys or blue chip caliber guys in South Florida in every class. But like I've spoken about before, it's incumbent upon Mike Rumph to go get those guys and get them to commit and get them to sign. And that's been a struggle, especially at the top end of the recruiting list for cornerback ever since he's gotten here. Mike Rumph is persistent. He'll get a couple 3-stars and he'll close with a high 3-star, low 4 or a 4-star at signing day every single year, the 5 years he's been here. Go look it up. We wrote about it. It will happen that he will get somebody towards the end. I would just also like to start shopping the name brand section first. You know what I mean? I don't always need, great value paper towels. I would like to get Brawny. Just, hey, okay, this is the one that everybody wants. I mean, if I'm a sneakerhead, if you want to talk about shoes, yeah, I don't want to get the knockoffs. I want to get the originals. So those Royal Toe 1s today, yes, let me go get those J's that I want, the ones on the shelf that everybody wants. I'm going to go get them. I've secured that bag, not having to then figure out, okay, well, what else can I get that's kind of similar, looks all right. Okay, they got these other ones. There's whatever. I don't want to have to keep doing that. And that's where things are going to have to be seen throughout the rest of this recruiting class. But I think that there are options, number one, right now. And hopefully, if things open up kind of soon, we can start to get guys on fields where we can evaluate things. Other names are going to pop up as well.
Got the super chat on. Please like the video. And again, consider Cam's time and what he gives us here at our Miami show each and every week. Tori Evans, I appreciate the question, but please read your question and really think about the question before you let it fly. So think about this. Regardless of the coach, if he starts winning, will he be the right coach? Think about that, Tori. Any coach who wins, unless he's Art Briles doing things like that off the field, will be the right coach at any program if he wins. Dem Canes 01. James Williams said just because the Miami Hurricanes aren't in his top 3 doesn't mean they are out. If we ball this year, things can change.
Prove it. I mean, James Williams, 5-star All-American. He's 6'5", 210 as a safety. I mean, he's the prototype. He's huge. He's massive. He moves like somebody who's much smaller than his size. Hits like a Mack truck. Great ball skills. He's played some offense in his career. Everybody in America wants James Williams. This is not a surprise. Ever since he was at American Heritage. Wait, wasn't he at Monsignor Pace before he went to Heritage, before he went to Western, and then back? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, this is a guy that's been known. Because, I mean, he had a growth spurt when he was young, so he's always been 6'3", 6'4", 6'5" in high school. Because he was like 6'2", 6'3" as an 8th grader. It maybe even 6'4" by then. Prove it, though. I saw, and I respect them. I just disagree. David Lake from 247 Sports, he said, don't overthink it. History says that Miami is going to win plenty in 2020. And I said, with all due respect, all of the scenarios that you're basing that on were the same for 2018 and 2019, and Miami did not win a lot. So they don't have the benefit of the doubt. They have to go prove it. Go show me. And if they show me, then they're going to show James Williams, and hey, maybe things do change. If you hit that, standard that everybody wants to do, which is win 10 plus games, compete for the ACC championship, things like that, yada, yada, yada. If you perform to that level, leveraging the talent on the roster and getting it to perform to the level of potential that there is, then yeah, things might change. But I could also win $1 million tomorrow or multiple millions of dollars tomorrow. That's not assured by any stretch of the imagination. Would it improve Miami's chances with James Williams if we won big throughout the year? Any big game, Virginia Tech, North Carolina, Florida State, all these games, Michigan State in the non-conference, we're winning all those games. I mean, even if it's by a touchdown or more, but decisively, playing Miami Hurricanes football, this offense comes alive and looks different and yada, yada, yada. Could that change the situation with him or a lot of other people? Yes. If that were to occur.
It's basically the same schedule. If anything, it's a little bit lighter. Of course, you replace Florida with Michigan State, who shouldn't be nearly as good as the Gators are as a top 10 team. And you're replacing Louisville with Wake Forest. That's pretty much even money, 7-5 type teams right there.
That might step down because Jamie Newman's at Georgia now.
True. I look at it this way, that Miami plays a bunch of teams that are capable, decent teams that are like top 40, 45 teams. The Virginia Techs of the world, North Carolina, they could take a big jump. We'll see. They play a lot of teams that have like a 25 to 30% chance of beating them. Something in that range. But that 25 or 30% has been coming through at a much higher rate than it should. A team of Miami's talent should slip up once a year and maybe go 10-2. Lose to somebody capable of beating you that's on par. Like if you play 2 or 3 of those games, maybe you win, you split them, or you win 2 out of 3, and then you slip up. It's understandable against somebody else, and you go 10-2. But that's not been happening.
Right, exactly. Miami, like I said, Miami's biggest opponent. And I think, like you're talking about those other teams having a 25% chance of beating Miami if Miami were to play to peak optimization. Miami's not done that in these last couple of years, which is why I respectfully disagree with what was written by David Lake there. I get it. In theory, on paper, sure, Miami should win all these games and whatever, but you got to play these games. And that's where things have fallen short on the performance on the field. And again, Miami's done less with more than most teams, pretty much any other team in America in the last 15 years. So no, I am not going to just accept it on implicit thought that Miami is going to win to the level that we want. I need to see them prove it, and that's what I'm saying.
Do you think that overall that Miami's roster is comparable to Florida State's?
Right now, off the top of my head, I would say better.
Yeah, I would think so too.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I mean, I think off the top of my head, I would say Miami's roster is clearly better than Florida State's. Again, I think that we were 1 percentage point or 2 percentage points different on blue chip ratio than Florida was last year. And then we had a very strong class, and then you end up getting Avante Williams, and then you take Isaiah Walker off of their class list and onto our roster, or off of Florida's roster onto our roster. So I think that Miami and Florida, and I hate to compare with them because I hate them, but on talent are very similar. Yeah, so I mean, but I think both of those rosters are more talented than Florida State's presently. I think that's pretty clear.
And here we've got a Florida team that is expected against a much more difficult schedule to win 10 games.
Yeah, exactly. But then again, Florida's won 10 games. There's a level of, I won't say certainty, but demonstrated performance there. I mean, you eke one out against Miami, which Miami could have won if we didn't, give up. Oh, wait, look, another sack from that game. You make a couple tackles and don't let guys get loose, guys who we said were going to be impact potential players in that game. You miss some tackles, you let those guys get loose. That's a game right there. So yeah, I mean, we did lose to Florida, but it wasn't. We didn't get blown. I mean, it wasn't a Clemson game. It wasn't. Oh my God, I'm turning it off at halftime. Whatever. Things like that. So I mean, it stands to reason, again, on paper, with the talent that's on this roster and the specific players as well. When you talk about De'Aaron King, you talk about Quincy Roche, the current AAC Defensive Player of the Year from last season. Look at the Gregory Rousseau with 15.5 sacks last year. It stands to reason that Miami should beat these teams. However, it also stood to reason that Miami should have beat Duke and FIU and several other teams that they lost to last year, and have beaten Central Michigan by a larger margin than that. And I know that Jim McElwain used to coach at the Power 5 level, and he schemed up something to keep the game close, but it was more of Miami messing around that kept that game close than what Central Michigan was doing. So yeah, if you're talking about comparable rosters and things, and Florida being projected to win 10 games, but I'll also say this: Miami's win total or over under is 8.5 or 9 from every outlet that I've seen. And I've seen it from like 4 different people or 4 different outlets. So it's not like people are coming in and saying, like I said, 7-5 and prove me wrong. Most everybody is putting that line at 8.5 or 9, depending on if you're going over, under, or the win total. So it is out there that Miami should win. It's just incumbent upon Miami to actually win.
We all love college football, but it's a boring landscape. It's like 5-6 teams are competing for a national championship, and we all know who those teams are unless something changes. There's other teams across the country that I would think might be in a position to break through, but they have to deal with more difficult schedules and conferences than Miami. So I think of Nebraska. I'm coming up with, Anyway, I had better examples in my head than that. This could be the breakout team of the year.
Or it could be 6 and 7 again. I mean, it could be true. I mean, yeah, there is an easier path for Miami than some other teams, but it's only easy if you do what you need to do. Because last year's path was very easy, and you saw that easy path was treacherous to traverse.
Yeah, when I think across the country about the teams that aren't elite or established, like a Penn State, Michigan, Notre Dame, as being a 10-win team every year, not quite at the college football playoff level, I look at North Carolina and I look at Miami, and I'm thinking, who's going to win that game and own that division? And sure, they'll probably lose to Clemson, but I'm not talking about have to go to the college football playoff to be a breakout team, a team that's going to come from North Carolina was 7-6 last year. Miami was 6-7 to a top 10 to 15 team. And I see major obstacles for the other teams that could do that in other conferences.
And again, the major obstacle for Miami has been Miami.
And North Carolina's got to deal with Auburn and UCF out of conference. So I know that doesn't affect their play in winning the Coastal, but in terms of having that kind of year where, bam, they go 10-2, and that's going to be difficult because of that. Tori Evans, Cam, with us, hopefully solidifying the offensive line for the future, and Coach Manny and staff getting in players if we start winning. He rephrased his question. He threw in the offensive line aspect of it.
No, I get you. Yeah, we're getting towards the place where we're getting the players that we need. We're still missing on some. Missed on some wide receivers. We're getting Ja'Cory Brooks from Booker T. Washington, just committed to Alabama as the latest South Florida native wide receiver to do that. Following T.L. Jones-Bell from Carroll City, following Jerry Jeudy, following Calvin Ridley, and then Grandpa Ridley. And Amari Cooper was the first of that ilk. Okay, so that happened. But Miami could still get plenty of guys in this class, and hopefully they will. But yes, the winning is the thing. Again, I am no ways tired to mention it. In my 2018 feature called The Recruiting Rules, recruiting rule number 9 is win. And the long story short on that is when you win, that is proof of concept. Everything that you're doing culturally, everything you're doing schematically, recruiting-wise, everything, discipline, play calling, substitute, everything in your program, off-season weight training, playbook install, any aspect that you want to talk about. When you win, it validates what and how what you're doing and how you're doing it. So if Manny Diaz now starts winning, then yes, he'll be the right coach for the team because Miami will be winning.
Bergie, Cam, do we still have room for Jared Williams? I know we talked Jared Williams quite a bit last week in regards to his recruitment. And until Cam has a chance to get back, I will remind everyone that Cam donates his time each and every week for the Best in Miami Football Talk. The Super Chat's on. I will post the banner just to remind you again. And then, of course, like the video, please subscribe here to Mark Rogers TV. Bergie asking about Jared Williams.
To my understanding, no, we do not have room for another incoming addition to the roster unless I have misunderstood and something has changed. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Again, even from Manny Diaz's mouth at National Signing Day, that there was one open scholarship for an incoming player at that time. And again, incoming was a recruit or a transfer. And technically, Isaiah Walker is both of those things because he just signed in January and is also transferring over. I do not think that there is room. Now, the thing about it is you do have the 85-man limit on the roster size, but you have a 25-player addition every year. So unless he wants to come as a walk-on or something or some other provision that I have missed or has been misquoted by others that I have read and followed and listened to, again, including Manny Diaz himself, I do not believe that we have room for any other incoming players this year.
Panero 5 Piru. Go Blue, Michigan, salutes me. Panero, you can appreciate this, Cam, because he's obviously a big Michigan fan. He joins us on every live stream, Notre Dame live stream, Ohio State live streams every week. He joins.
Well, he wants to hate against the
Buckeyes. Yeah, hey, absolutely.
I'm with it.
And you would think he would show up and be scared to join in, but it's tremendous. And Panero 5, I want you to know that if I had the guest to do a Michigan live stream every week, believe me, I would love to do a Michigan live stream every week.
Yeah.
So if I can get a good guest that knows what they're talking about concerning Michigan football, I would love to do a Michigan live stream.
Panero, I will say, if you don't know about me, I'm a Detroit native. I have an uncle who went to Michigan. I have a couple other homeboys who went to Michigan. I went to the big house when I evacuated from a hurricane 2 years ago for the Air Force game. I was there in, 91 for the Cordell Stewart Hail Mary. I was there in 92 when 94, excuse me. Thank you. I was there. So it was 91 when Scott Dreisbach beat Virginia with the fade to the corner to Mercury Hayes, and it was going into the Michigan marching band, and my seats were diagonal across. So I didn't see it. I saw whoever it was. I think it was Dreisbach. Went and he dropped back and he flicked that ball over that side to go to the opposite corner. And we all, because it's 112, you and 112,000 your closest friends. So you're standing the whole entire game. So I was there standing and we're just waiting. And it was into the student section. And we see the student section erupt. And then eventually later on television when I got home, because it's early 90s, so you didn't have the video board there or anything, I went and I finally saw the replay of that throw to the corner, things like that. I was there for Donovan McNabb in 96 when Drew Henson came off the bench late in that game when Donovan McNabb looked like
98.
Was it 98?
I'm pretty good with Michigan football.
98. Yeah, sorry. But yeah, Drew Henson came off the bench. Drew Henson, the best high school player that I ever saw. He hit a baseball at Brighton that is still orbiting the fifth moon of Saturn. I mean, it was crazy. And he comes in the game late. Donovan McNabb looked like he was in fast forward, and everybody else was in slow motion that game. That and many other times I've been there to the Big House and to Chrysler Arena and everything. My friends and I from I think it was 8th grade going into 9th grade. We won a 3-on-3 basketball tournament up in Michigan there and everything. So, like I said, I'm a native Detroiter, man. Love seeing the maize and blue out there. So go blue, man.
I've always thought that Drew Brees was the most accurate collegiate quarterback I've ever seen. I thought he was amazing from that standpoint. Drew Henson, when you put the size and the athleticism to it, was near as good as Drew Brees as an accurate passer. I still remember he had a game against Ohio State in Columbus in 2000. I think his final line was 20 of 24, 21 of 24. And there was one particular play where it wasn't it shouldn't have been a long throw because they snapped the ball at like the Ohio State 5, but he got pinned close to the right sideline and threw a ball against an NFL secondary where they thought they had the angle, and he threw it all the way across the field to the other corner, and they misjudged the velocity on the throw.
No, Drew Henson was like a living, breathing Paul Bunyan. Like, I think it was 2 or 3 times first team All-State basketball. He was 2 times all Mr. Baseball. Again, I remember the sound off of that aluminum bat because, I mean, I went to Cranbrook, like whatever. It's not even close to Brighton, but my father and I drove out there because we'd been reading about Drew Henson, and he had a ball to left center field or just left of center that is still orbiting the fifth moon of Saturn. Like that ball, it was out of there. Mr. Football, everything. I mean, he was larger than life. It was like, you know, when people say that they watched Joe Mauer in high school up in Minnesota, like Drew Henson was that kind of dude. But we'll see. Or we did see, unfortunately for him, how things went. To Fresh 3542's question, we need to stack in cornerbacks. Yes, true, correct, we do.
When you think Miami, you think a lot of positions. It's like Alabama. I say this when I bring on NFL draft people and we start talking Alabama, because certain schools have certain positions that you think of. Wisconsin offensive line, but Alabama, you're like, well, they produce them and them and them. And Miami, historically, it's the same thing. You're like, well, yeah, this is a cornerback. Well, no, it's also and it's also pretty much down the line every position.
It's not they did have Dan Morgan and Ray Lewis, so yeah, but not defensive tackle. Well, they had Russell Maryland, who was the number 1 pick in Warren Slab, but not defensive end. Well, they had Calais Campbell, and but running back. Well, they had Edgerrin James coming. Well, I mean, like, yeah.
But for some reason, people love to argue the cornerback position or the defensive backfield, DBU. That, for some reason, people have latched on to Miami, LSU, Ohio State, Florida is kind of the argument, I guess. Right?
Yeah. I mean, it is.
Maybe USC all time. Marcus Luck commented this week asking, just wondering, are the Miami Palmetto guys a package deal, or are they 5 really good players worth recruiting to the same school?
I think the latter, the 5 really good players worthy of recruiting the same school. I don't think that they're a package deal. Hey, Crip, Chick 47. Yeah, I don't think that they're a package deal. You know, Corey Collier, his father played at Florida State, and if he wants to go to Florida State and follow his father's footsteps, I don't think that him going there is going to influence the other ones. Because, you know, package deal, that was that Robert Condici thing. Hey, I say I'm coming to Clemson, but I'm the number 1 player in America, so I'm not going to say anything now, but it's a package. So what you should do is take my best friend and this other friend at Clemson or South Carolina or wherever, and then eventually I'll be in the boat. But by getting them, you're starting to secure that package. I mean, I would take any of those 5 guys individually. Okay, so let's run down the list. Corey Collier, 4-star safety cornerback. Like I said, dad played at Florida State. Jason Marshall, already talked about him, 5-star corner. Leonard Taylor, 5-star defensive tackle. Savion Collins, who's committed to Miami currently, 4-star defensive tackle, and Brashard Smith, who was committed to Florida but just decommitted last week. those are the 5 guys that you're talking about from Miami Palmetto. I would take them as a package. I would take them individually. It's kind of like green eggs and ham. I would, like in a tree, out with me, like with a goat in a boat. Like, I don't really care, bro. Like, yeah, individually or corporately, I'll take all of them. To a fresh 35-42 statement right now regarding a potential future player that Miami could get, Earl Little Jr., whose father of the same name played at Miami back in the day, is a 2022 recruit. So he is not in this current year's recruiting class. But you can still recruit future players, obviously, because Miami does have a couple commitments from future players. But obviously, maybe things would change because of Manny Diaz and staff changing recruiting protocols and trying to curtail the number of decommitments. Like that Georgia fan earlier said, Miami is decommitment you. Miami has had more decommitments than any class or any team in all of the recent years. It's been a rolling thing since like 2014. We try to curtail that by maybe not taking these guys so early. But Earl Little Jr. From American Heritage is a defensive back, a cornerback who holds a Miami offer already, and is a guy that Miami is going to pursue for sure.
Somebody earlier in the live chat referenced the proposal that Jim Harbaugh put out this week. Do you have any thoughts about kind of the basketball one and done?
Nah, I saw that he said something. I didn't read it. I didn't look into it. Just because I found a lot of his statements to be self-serving. And with all due respect, like I can be a distant Michigan fan where if they're on or thing, I still follow them a little bit, but not insofar as like, oh, he said something, I have to go read it. So I didn't.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. We talk Miami each and every week, at least once a week. And then, of course, we've got a ton of other debate topics that I'm releasing videos on. And over the past few days, it's been Pac-12 top 5 running backs, quarterbacks, and coaches rankings. Looking for comments and questions that we can talk about here. A lot of people just, of course, stating the obvious that Miami needs to show up this year. How do I phrase this? In regards to the coaching staff under Manny Diaz.
Yeah.
Where do you have the most trust? Where do you have the most question marks?
It's a really good question. I have the most trust. I mean, I think it's going to be, it's going to make sense when I say it. I have the most trust in the guys who have been here the longest. So Ephraim Bonda and Mike Rumpf, a little bit below them. I would say Pat Key, the outside linebackers coach. And then Todd Stroud on that same level as Pat Key because he's been just in coaching college for 30 years. So the defensive side of the ball, that's where I have the most confidence or security. And that's not to say that there's not room for improvement, because I think that there is, but they've been here and I've seen their work in transforming Miami's defense back into a Miami defense, not that passive group that Mark D'Onofrio coordinated at the direction of Al Golden. So I'm not going to just absolve Al Golden from that. D'Onofrio did run the defense that Golden told him to run, which is also the defense that he chose to run at Houston, which got him up and out of there in a season or less. So the defensive coaches are the ones that I have the most confidence in. Quickly rising up that rank also is Eric Hickson, the running backs coach, because he's a carryover, obviously, from last year. And Stephen Field, my guy. I forgot about my guy. I've known Coach Field since he was at Miami Northwestern Senior High School. So he would be towards the top of the list for me as well, just because of my connection with him and knowing how he's done work, whether it's in Miami Northwestern, North Marion, the Florida A&M recruiting department, Louisville, Oregon. I've seen Stephen have or Coach Field have a bunch of different jobs. So he would be at the top of the list for me, up there with those guys as well. The ones that I want to just see what happens, Blake Baker in year 2, that's a question mark for me, because Manny Diaz had to go over to the defensive side to settle things down and impose our version of accountability and things like that in the first year last year. So I want to see what happens when the training wheels are off. You know what I mean? And yeah, I think that bringing Blake Baker in from Louisiana Tech, because he took over for Manny when Manny left Louisiana Tech for Miami, or for Mississippi State before he came to Miami. But bringing in someone who took over for him to take over for him again makes sense. But Louisiana Tech and Miami are on two different levels. And I want to see if he can continue to have the defense play to the level that needs to at this level. You know what I mean? So that's a question mark for me. And then not necessarily based upon past performance or anything, but just because they're new, Garen Justice and Rhett Lashley and Rob Likens on offense. That's your offensive coordinator, offensive line coach, and wide receivers coach. They've done good work other places. I just need to see them do it here at Miami. And it's similar to, other coaches that we've brought in have done really good work other places, and it wasn't the greatest at Miami. We've seen these teams for Miami for the last 15 years be talented. So, on paper, supposed to go, 10-2, 11-1, it's crazy to think that they're going to lose more games than that. If you remember, Mark, I read you the riot act last year because you said 8-4, and my brain exploded on this very channel. You can go back and look up that video. I went ballistic, but Miami got in Miami's way. So I say all that to say that even though Likens and Justice and Lashley have done solid work elsewhere, I need to see them do it here. That's my area of concern. But from a schematic standpoint, reading what Justin DeTavio and others are putting up about Lashley's offense, I'm hyped. If you look back at what Arizona State did with Likens there, look, and he has 2 first-round draft picks, Brandon Ayuk and N'Keal Harry, that he coached because he was offensive coordinator and wide receivers coach. Excuse me. You got guys, and Brandon Ayuk was a junior college 3-star who transferred over there, or he was a 4-star prospect coming out of junior college, but then he goes first round. All right, cool. I want to see that. Rhett Lashley, he even talked about it. He's scheming guys with 4.6, 4.7 speed, butt naked, wide open, and run away from guys. But now you come to Miami, you got guys running 4.3, 4.4, 4.5. Hey, I want to see that here too. Garen Justice, again, solidly respected. Obviously does work on the recruiting trail, both in this class, getting Isaiah Walker, and then in the 2021 class, getting a couple guys already, including Ryan Rodriguez from Columbus. Okay, there's reason to be excited. However, there were reasons to be excited about these other coaches and these other players and these other teams. So that's my level of not discontent, but uncertainty and what I need to see proven in a certain way moving forward.
So I picked Miami to go 8-4. If you would have told me that they would beat Virginia and Florida State, I would have said, okay, well, I screwed up.
Right. But you go and you spot Virginia Tech 4 touchdowns. Yeah.
Because obviously my tiebreaker on Florida State was that they were playing at home, and that's pretty much the way I looked at it. And I thought I picked Virginia and Miami, and even though this kind of didn't make sense, I picked Virginia and Miami to tie for the division championship, and I just on a hunch thought Virginia's going to beat them. Even though it's on the road, they're going to beat them head-to-head, and I'm taking Virginia to win the division. But, my 8-4 was, it was that collection of all those 30%ers thinking they're going to trip up a little bit more than – and here's a great point out of Georgia Kane ATL. So we don't give the field goal kicking a lot of talk, but, man, I just pulled up the schedule, and my goodness. So if you make the field goal against Florida in the first or second quarter, it was in the first half. There was a short field goal missed. Then you can kick a field goal later in the game when you had to score a touchdown and you got in the red zone. You could have kicked a field goal and tied or won the game, but you had to try to score a touchdown.
But there was the other missed field goal in the fourth quarter that would have pushed the lead again. You know what I mean? It's I'm sorry. Go ahead. Continue.
Well, it's just an oddity of football. I find this very strange that you got all these big, fast, incredible athletes that are knocking heads, and then you've got this other position that's not related to the rest of the team in any way. It's unlike any other sport that can you need to have a reliable field goal kicker.
And, hopefully we do for this year. Jose Borregales comes over from FIU. He's a South Florida guy. He went to Booker T for high school and everything. So, former soccer player. He wants to be here. Wanted to be a Hurricane, obviously, because, if you're going to stay locally from Miami, let's be real. Yeah. Go back to the last question. And so, hopefully that for a year. And then his younger brother, Andres Borregales, is a commit in oh, go ahead. Sorry. For 2021. Yeah, that was the one, but we're good. So the Borregales dynasty for 5 years, hopefully, will settle the kicking situation for Miami. But field goals matter too. And obviously punting does too, because 2 years ago it was terrible. Last year with Lewis Headley, it was pretty good. And hopefully it gets better. But special teams matter and everything. And hopefully we put some fast guys with some wiggle out there on returns so they can get loose a little bit. And we've seen guys get loose. We saw Braxton Berrios, DJ Dallas, Jeff Thomas all get loose in their careers here, things like that in the various return games. So hopefully we'll see that. But also I want to get back to where we're having, half of all of the specials need to be starters. That's when Miami was great and blocking all those kicks and returning all those kicks and everything back in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. Virginia Tech for years when they were like the special teams gurus of life because they had to find a margin to get a victory, because just Virginia Tech, they were very good, but they're also very knowledgeable about themselves. You know what I mean? So they're like, we cannot just go offense, defense. We have to use that third engagement as the one that we're going to push towards a victory. But they used almost all starters on their specials for years at Virginia Tech. I need to see that in Miami because every position is one that you have to fight for. Not just, okay, you're fighting for offense and defense and then, all right, we'll put some freshmen on. Nah, bruh. No, go back and look. Ed Reed, Sean Taylor when Sean Taylor was Sean Tayloring, okay? All these guys, DJ Williams on specials, when DJ Williams was, an All-American. I mean, look at all these specials back in the day. You had the star players playing on specials. I need that.
Kevin, I would need further explanation on Michigan is the Miami of the Big Ten. I don't really get that correlation.
All the talent in the world not winning as much as they should.
I guess Michigan's, I guess. I think Michigan's pretty much doing what they should be doing. They're recruiting in the 8 to 10 to 12 range, and they're going 9-3, 10-2 every year.
I mean, good isn't good enough. That's all I'll say.
I caught quite a bit of the Florida State-Miami game from 2001 the other night.
Yeah. Yeah, that was on. All those games have been on recently, so that's been pretty great. Got to see 3 of Chris Rix's specials against Miami. Cam grew up as a Michigan fan. Cam is a Miami Hurricane alum and fan now. So, yes, I do still have some Michigan stuff. I still have the memorabilia that I have and the memories from when I went there. Duh. But no, number one is Miami. That I bleed orange and green, just like all of you guys. So there
are fans out there that change teams every 5 years, 10 years. They get sick of a team loses for a long time, and they can't be associated with the losing team, and they just switch. The key statement that you made in all of that was you attended and graduated from the University of Miami. That is a significant, one of the paramount milestones of any person's life.
And I'll tell you like this here, and I've said it before, and I wrote about it in my Why I Became a Hurricane piece, which is still up on State of the Year. If you want to search Why I Became a Hurricane, Cam Underwood, because that's my name. I wanted to go to Vanderbilt. That was my number one school. And I've never in a day in my life, to this day, at this big age, I've never been to Nashville. And I wanted to go there sight unseen as my number one school. Trust and believe, had I went to Vanderbilt, I would still be a Michigan fan. But yeah, I'm not. I didn't. I went to Miami. I graduated from Miami. I was there for all those times, all those things, and I'm a Hurricane. I wasn't born into it. Some of the people, sure, they've been lifelong Hurricanes fans. And I get it. I'm a little different. I wasn't born into it. I watched the baseball team every, College World Series season. in that late May, June time. And then, I ended up coming to Miami and things like that. So I get that my story's a little different, but trust and believe I'm a Hurricane as much as, if not more than everybody else.
All right, we talk Miami football each and every week with Cam Underwood. You got to subscribe to the channel, MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. You get the bell for the notifications to know when we're going live. Cam, we appreciate, as always, the insight, the information. And as always, 107 on the line is the highest number of people on the line. That means you wait for the video to post and you watch the conversation again, and then you subscribe so you know when we're going to be live next time so you can join us out of the gate.
Bang, bang. Exactly. So, yeah, it's always good to come on here. I got to talk about a couple of really, good topics, which I appreciate. So be sure that you just keep the conversation going. State of the U is on all the social media. So Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, that's at the State of the U. The website is stateoftheu.com, which we are wrapping up Marvel Week tomorrow. And then we have a new theme week coming up on Monday, which, again, I'm not going to tell you, but I think that it will tickle your fancy. So go on over there and check out all that content. My personal Twitter account is at Underwood Sports. I tweet about sports and other stuff. So if you're into Top Chef or what else is on? Well, Westworld just went off. Season finale just happened. The challenge, things like that. Because I'm a living, breathing human being. So I talk about things other than sports as well. So come on over to Underwood Sports, but wherever you engage, whether that's any of the State of the U social media, the State of the U website, or Underwood Sports, please come fan with us.
And just because the conversation may never take us there again, I believe, and you can verify this, having been in the stadium, that Michigan-Virginia game was one of those early season, nobody else is playing, end of August games, like one-offs, week 0. And It was blazing hot for Michigan.
Woo!
Yeah.
It was blazing hot. It was like in the mid-90s. Yes.
Virginia led 16-0. Michigan scored the final 17.
Yep, and literally last play of the game, 1 second left, goal line fade, Dreisbach to Mercury Hayes in the corner there. Yeah. Mercury Hayes, number 9. What a name for a wide receiver, Mercury Hayes.
It's a great name.
It is.
Wide receiver.
Anyway.
Yes, I pay attention to Michigan football. There's no question about that.
You got to.
All right, Cam. Appreciate it.
No, and it's 8 o'clock. Hard out. See ya.
See everybody else Sunday night at 10 o'clock. And you know what? I'll sift through the comments to see if there's anything directed at me or anything that I can respond to. Thank you, Murder Blaze 9. Like and subscribe to the Voice of College Football. Thank you so much for that. We've got a call-in show every Sunday night. We'll be here Sunday night at 10 o'clock Eastern time to take your questions, comments, debate topics on college football. I've got so much content coming your way. All sorts of good debate topics concerning the things that we talk about here every day. College football. All right. Anything else that you guys want to talk about? We appreciate the encouragement. Hey, if you just want to jump in the live chat or leave the comments in any of the videos that just say, hey, great job, we love it. Don't think that those aren't appreciated, even if I can't get to all of them to say, hey, thanks a lot. I try to, but if I do what I do here, which is try to produce as much content as I can, valuable content, then I can't respond to as many comments directly as I would like to. But do keep in mind that I appreciate your comments of encouragement. And I also enjoy the debate. So certainly bring the debate and bring the challenge of the discussion as well. Warren Sapp on punt coverage. Sure. Why not? SEC Dog, good to see you. John Shields, thank you so much. Aiden Christ, Florida fan. Did you catch our video that we just posted a few days ago in which we broke down the Georgia-Florida debate for the SEC Eastern Division title in 2020 and beyond? So, Aiden, you should check out that video, Florida and Georgia, and that's what we do here on college football. Concerning college football, we talk it up. We've got all sorts of angles that we're dissecting right now. I hope to produce videos on the top 5 quarterbacks, running backs, other positions throughout the land. In every conference, we've released the Pac-12 top 5 quarterbacks and running backs and our coaches' rankings as well in the Pac-12. All right, that looks to be about it. If there's any comment or question that you would like me to address, copy and paste it, leave in the comments section of any of the videos. And again, we'll be right back here Sunday night at 10 o'clock Eastern time. In the meantime, just released a video talking about Tualia Tagovailoa's transfer portal move, and also Alabama's most recent commit, Ja'Cory, what's the kid's last name? Ja'Cory Brooks, the wide receiver who just committed to Alabama. Just talk that up, and the Alabama quarterback room as it stands right now, right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Thank you so much for jumping on board, and we will see you soon. Sunday night, 10 o'clock Eastern time.